Broken Branches, a selection of flash fiction pieces, Volume 1, by Matthew R. Wright. Number 1. Her Last Thoughts. She waited, tormented. Night overtook the day and purged her life into pitch. Dripping, the dripping of her blood from that open wound, the one left by the knife that had cut a vertical portal from her stomach, continued to empty her out. Her child was gone. Soon she would be too. Number 2. Echoes. Her words lingered like an echo in his mind. The words were truths ignored, hidden away from the light that would require an acknowledgement of their existence. Her words lingered, and so did her actions. He watched her walk away, now understanding why. Number 3. From all accounts. From all accounts, Reese was doing better. His neighbours all saw him taking daily walks and drinking lots of bottled water. It looked like Reese was making the effort and maybe turning his life around. No one ever suspected him of swapping the water in that bottle for vodka each morning, and only taking walks so that he could reach the forest to sleep off his drunkenness in peace. Number 4. When your city score falls. The numbers steadily dropped, from 145 to 0. Russ sighed. He knew that it wouldn't reach 0 until morning, and so contemplated what he should do with his declining city score. The remaining doors were closing behind him. Many of them he still desired access to. He did a quick calculation in his head, summing out the risks and results of his remaining time. Maybe he'd have enough score for a quick peek and a beer at least. Number 5. Reunion, a 2-sentence horror story. Karen broke into the house last night. She was still wearing the wedding dress that I buried her in. Number 6. Dry Love. Our time was over. This was our last night together. I wanted to do it all, but all it was dinner, then drinks. Despite that, it still felt nostalgic, a flashback to better days. We climbed the hotel steps when she turned and took my hand. Smiling, she gave me the fatal push. Number 7. In Need of Guidance. Lost and desperate, he sunk his feet into the warm sands and knelt forward. The backs of his hands laid gently on some cloth. Staring into the endless dunes, he recited the prayers of Oberus the deserter, to guide him safely out of this golden land of sin. Number 8. Train of Thought. No one's watching, so now's the time. Look both ways and drop from the platform. Keep yourself close to the ground. Stay there until you hear the tracks vibrate. Close your eyes as you stand up straight. Ignore their cries. Peace will finally come any minute now. Number 9. Of Blood and Silver. She held her sword skyward. The moon reflected up the blade's edge and shone brightly against the blackness of the night sky. The sword was Kylist, her father's sword. With each day that she took a life using Kylist, she performed this ritual, begging forgiveness from her father. Number 10. Desperado under a street lamp. She stared at her watch again. An hour and a half late? She sighed. Had he stood her up? Was he late? Had he misinterpreted innocent office banter as romantic interest? Rebecca covered her watch with her coat sleeve and kept on waiting. She waited another 2 hours for him. Number 11. The Red List. What could lead a man to kill? When this question is asked to the relatively sane, the response is, I don't know. A comforting answer. For Tom, however, he took out a pen and pad and wrote down 37 answers to the question. We haven't talked much since. Number 12. Oil and water. I walked. She ran. I slept while she soared above me. We were two very different creatures, intertwined by desperate circumstances. She knew she could do better, and yet she stayed. I was a mess of grateful confusion, never questioning, always thankful. Number 13. The Ghost of the Night Before. She woke up, and he wasn't there. This widened her smile that had carried over from the night before, like the smell of alcohol and the graze on her shoulder. He wasn't there, and she smiled. The start of a brand new day, a brand new Renee. Number 14. Record keepers. Wilson didn't care for, but understood the usefulness of the record. He'd heard of those with memory problems and sympathized. Must suck to rely on GFT's deep surveillance to remember if he'd left the tap running. As much as that was a joke, the record kept logs of even that. Number 15. Time for sale. Get yourself some time. Time. All she wanted now was time. She wished that she could go into a shop, see time on a shelf and just pick it up to buy. A day, a month, a year, 10 years. It didn't matter. She's been living on borrowed time recently. Her diagnosis 4 months ago had put it all into perspective. Number 16. December 25th. It was just as much a cry for help as it was convenient paper to write on. His son's letter to Santa template pad. It was on his bedside cabinet the morning he was found crying in the garden. All I want for Christmas is... A reason to keep going on, to smile. Number 17. Before I'm 30. He kept telling himself that he wasn't going to reach 30. That with every closing of the day, something would, happen to him. It had reached the day before his 30th, and he was starting to worry. He fought for a while, then decided to DIY this situation himself. Number 18. The Deep Place. When he spoke, every time he spoke, it was like a creature that lived deep inside him rose up from its hiding place and screamed out of his mouth. The words never his own. The creature had caused so much damage. It's not hard to imagine this is why he slit his own throat. Number 19. A Moment in Time. The photo tore, and with it, the moment itself became infected. Infected with the past 9 years of bickering and distance. Their smiles, their embrace. It no longer displayed the love that once was, but instead the current cascade of a marriage that was never meant to be. Number 20. Like tears in rain. The sun was gone. He was low. There might have been a connection. He spaced out as rain showered over the roof of the car. He wasn't needed anywhere today, or yesterday, or the month before that. He let the rain pour. Time was all he earned these days. Number 21. Blank. What hurt him the most wasn't the writer's block that occasionally plagued him with the but it was the anecdotal stories from other writers of the terrifying blank page. Their tales emptied out his middling confidence and fed that almost always present inferiority. Number 22. You'll never know when you need a notice. He kept that letter hidden in his red notebook. No one knew it was there but him. He hadn't left a date, only a blank space to fill it whenever he felt the need to press the ejector button. Knowing that it was there was somehow comforting. You never know when you'll need it. Number 23. To be involved. He hadn't planned on going out that night, but he did anyway. He didn't have money to spend, or friends to meet. But the cold wind and the distant music from the nightclubs made him feel like he was part of something. He sat on the edge of a bench and listened to everything. Number 24. Disengagement. He knew it. This was it. This was the moment. He now didn't care about his job. He was now completely disengaged and was just running out the clock. He had hoped that this job wouldn't be like that, but it always happened. Followed by re-employment and then a new disengagement cycle. Number 25. Groundhog Guy. His days merged together, till it felt like he hadn't actually slept, but had done this day before, like a reset. The alarm rang at the same time, the same coloured shirt hung from his door. He had considered going outside to death test this repeated day, then decided against it. Thank you for listening to this Darktreeaudio production.